We got hards on. We're going to the end.
Right then, let's just get this over and done with. Let's hold space for this Max Verstappen fourth win in a row. Now let's hold some space for Lando Norris's mathematically finished downfall. I know people definitely would have enjoyed that one. I made a short slash TikTok about this, right? Hards on podcast, welcome back. We've got Hards on, we're going to the end. I don't know if I meant to say that, if I usually do. This is the Vegas Grand Prix. Well, this isn't the Vegas Grand Prix. If you thought you was clicking on for the Vegas Grand Prix, this is quite underwhelming. No, we're just talking about it. Yeah, so less good. But I made like a short slash TikTok basically about how these podcasts in general get about 40 views, if that, right? We're not exactly setting the world alight. I title a video, click this video if you hate Lando Norris, tell me why that's my 1 out of 10 by far, tell me why that has like 1,800 views, which, many people would spit on 1,800 views. That's chicken change, that's peasant numbers. But like, if you look at it relatively speaking, when all the episodes have like 40 views, and then you title one, click to see if you hate Lando Norris, and it has 1,700. I don't know what percentage gain that is, but that's to say there's a lot of Lando Norris haters out there. And also considering the second video out of my 10 is called like Lando Norris fumbled the bag or something. I think that's what you call conclusive proof. We've ran this experiment more than once. I don't know what I'm going to title this one. As you can see, I'm not exactly over the moon. I'm not exactly happy. And I thought, we had some common interest. I thought there was common ground here amongst most F1 fans, that all we really wanted for this season is Red Bull not to dominate, and ideally for Max not to win. Whether you like Max or not, obviously if you like Max, you want him to win 12 in a row. But just for the goodness of the sport, you want to see someone else. And we have had a very good season, don't get me wrong. But like, how quickly things change from common enemy to not. But we'll get into that later. We got the soft, medium, hard awards. We got the race rundown. But first of all, we obviously got to start with rating the quali, which I'm just gonna put it out on the table now and be honest. I once again missed by accident. I knew, like, last time I missed quali was because we had that big gap, like a month, and it was like I kind of just forgot about getting back into the swing of things, and we came back with like a sprint weekend, so I was extra thrown off. This time round, I knew the race and the qualifying was happening. I was just sort of shocked to the fact it was happening at 6 in the morning. So I'm going about my day and I see highlights at like 1 in the afternoon, and I'm like, ow. To be fair, missing qualifying at the end of the world, because the highlights usually, they're pretty useful, like 8 minutes long. They show you all the stuff you got to see. Like, it works all the same. Missing the race is more annoying, but I try not to miss quali. Did miss it though, and to be fair, it wasn't spoiled to me though, so I did watch the highlights, not knowing what happened. Apart from one thing, the one thing they put in the title, I'm pretty sure, was Sergio Perez goes out in Q3, which I don't know why they still think that is like the big shocking headline. Like, to me, that's no longer like Perez goes out and like almost anything else that happens. Gasly put in at P3, Hamilton P10. I mean, that's been happening a little bit too much recently, to be fair. But just anything else, like Perez out in Q3 is no longer a headline. It's just a daily, weekly recurrence whenever races are. Where are my notes? I did write them. I didn't want to throw a strop like last week, although I will be throwing several strops later on. I did write a couple notes down here. What else happened in quali? Sergio Perez, oh yeah, the graphic up on that huge orb. And it's like, you gotta have some foresight, And this is partly the problem with Sergio Perez. Even outside of race car scenarios, the foresight is just not there. When you're up there and you're doing the little like wave down, really, Sergio, with your form, you didn't think that would eventually be used against you when you're out in Q1 and your big spherical face is up there on the sphere looking down at you. That ain't great. What else happened? Not only that as well, let me not do that actually. But not only that as well, Sergio Perez got knocked out by two, like, Red Bull driver, well, 3 if you're counting Max, but that's the foregone conclusion. But like 2 junior team drivers, Lawson and Tsunoda, and just put either one of them in the seat, man. I don't really care which one. I like Lawson. I'm a Lawson guy. He's won me over very quickly. But like, give it to Tsunoda either. I don't care if you think he's a hothead. That seems to be the only thing people ever say about him. He's pretty much the most underrated driver on the grid. on the grid. He's the most underrated driver on the grid for sure. He's the most underrated driver on the grid, I think. And people just come up with bullshit reasons why he shouldn't have that Red Bull seat when it's just like, he's kind of the best option realistically. And no one's going to do much worse than Sergio. I don't care which Red Bull Junior you give it to. I don't care if you give it to an under 14. I don't care if you give it to a Red Bull intern. At this point, give it to not Sergio, but he's got it, I think, for next year as well, which is just, I mean, it's wild. It's wild. There was news actually I saw, and this one seemed legit about Cadillac, that car company, being in Formula One as an 11th team. And maybe Sergio could go there. I don't know. Like, that's an extra 2 seats available now. So those people who are out of the sport, like Colapinto, that gives them hope for 2026. Obviously you've got to wait out for a year, but Albon did that. Ocon's done that. Like, seats can still be waiting for you. Anything else happening in quali? Franco's doing decently, and he outqualified Albon, but then it's just like, bring it home. Like, you've done the bit, you've outqualified Albon. But then he crashes, so he starts behind him anyway. Like, he's very good and he's very quick, but he does like a bit of a crashy washy doodah. And every time I feel so bad, man. It is like torture. It's like watching. It's like when you watch like the like Animal Planet, whatever it's called, and you hear David Attenborough, and it's like it's this cute little baby deer, and then just gets like mangled by like a lion or something, or like a Black Panther. Like, are they called Black Panthers? They're called Panthers, right? Black Panther is a superhero based off of the panther animal. I guess. But, something like that. And you're just like, oh, this is sad, it's painful. It's like, but that's the circle of life. That's just how it goes. Every time I see those Williams mechanics, and their faces, their sad little faces. Like the bags under their eyes, knowing, all-nighter again, yep. Cool, the kids won't be seeing them for a few weeks, like, just to fix the car. Like, oh my God, it just must be like the worst thing in the world. Like, yep, I'm going to spend the next 14 hours on my back underneath a car just with a spanner, just going at it, doing a very specific thing. I'm imagining very old school, like everyone's just got spanners and wrenches and we're just sort of tightening bolts and stuff. I don't know how difficult it actually is, but it's heartbreaking when you see it happen to them. And it happens basically every week. Gasly put it on P3. Put it on P3. I don't think that's the thing people say. You either put it on pole, but he was P3. No one really seemed to give a fuck or really care, and ultimately neither did their team. Like the car blew up anyway, and he didn't really finish the race. I mean, he was probably just going to fall back anyway. So that's not even though that should be a headline, that's not even really that interesting of a thing. Although I have to say this was a very good qualifying. I mean, it's an exceptionally good qualifying for the Neeks out there, aka the George Russell heads, because they exist and they're in full force, right? Because he put it on pole and he managed to convert that pole. And for all of the rest of us normal people, it was a little bit bittersweet, because although it was a really fun qualifying, it's hard seeing Russell on pole when Hamilton's P10. It's just like, please do better. But his qualifying's just not really been it. It's kind of been declining for a minute. But that was all the quality stuff. We can get into the race. The race, I got it pretty I really struggle speaking sometimes, guys. I'm sorry. I got it really vague. Some of these notes here, because I kind of felt this way about Vegas last year. It's like exciting on paper. There's a lot of overtakes, but a lot of people are finishing similar to where they started. And I wasn't actually, like, it started quite well. I did think it kind of like simmered out into nothing. There wasn't really anything too exciting. It's maybe more exciting for the drivers, but watching it, I just don't know, man. I don't know if I'm not sold in it. There's definitely worse tracks I need to go before Vegas. I don't think Vegas has an issue. Vegas is fun. This isn't an anti-Vegas thing. It's just that, like, it's fun, but could it be more fun? And yeah, it definitely could. Like, I don't even know what I really want to see. I think you just got to give it time. Like, a new track, just give it time, and more cool races will happen. A lot of people would tell you it's 2 for 2. It's been amazing every time. But, like, the first one, I don't actually remember. I remember probably giving, like, a 6 or 7 out of 10. This one, I'm similar. Like, there was a lot of overtakes, and Crofty was talking on commentary, like, oh, this is great. We've had, like, this many overtakes already, and we're not even half race distance yet. And I was just like, I don't know. It didn't really live up to maybe the promise it had early on. I didn't realize that when Leclerc didn't get past Russell, that first time they had the exchange, that was the only time it was going to happen. I think that was kind of what sunk it for me. Is what if I just cut the bullshit here, is that like I didn't realize that it was do it there or not at all, and that because he didn't do that, Russell was going to spend the rest of his race 10 seconds in front of everyone else. I didn't realize that, so if there was more battling around the front, it would have been cool. But Russell really just did what Lando hasn't been doing for a lot of it, and he just stayed out in the front by pole, had an easy win. There you go. Second, I think that's his second win now of the year. I think. Although I heard people saying it's the same amount of wins as Lando, but I just checked now and I'm pretty sure I thought like Hamilton had 3 wins. I thought Russell had 3 wins, but apparently both of them only have 2. So I don't know where I collected these extra wins for both of them were, but yeah, man. I don't know. Like I just needed a bit more battling at the front, and it was sort of also like I guess a bit less interesting because Verstappen was being different today. Like he was very laid back. Like yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm not really gonna push it. Yeah, I'm not gonna. Like usually he's a lot more ego driven when he's driving, but this was like, oh, I only need to finish in front of Lando, and Lando's P6, and he's got no pace. And yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah, I'm not gonna fight. Yeah, this can happen. Yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna dance my way to a full not constructors, drivers championship type thing. So he was missing that element as well. So it's less the track. It's more just sort of the situation. Maybe if we moved to Vegas from where it is in the calendar, I'd like it more. I don't know. Maybe I'm just chatting shit realistically, and I'm just bitter because in my little peanut brain there was a world in which. He defended really hard for some reason against like Russell or Leclerc, crashes out, and it keeps the drama alive until the final races. But that's just a pipe dream. Anyway, well, it's a dead dream now because it's done. But the thing is, I'm still going into these final races with hope. By the way, like for me, it's not about like, oh, Lando lost. No, what am I going to do now? Twiddle me thumbs. Oh, the race is over. I've got no reason to watch anymore. Oh, it's done. Like for me. I kind of accepted very early on. I don't think I ever really accepted that he was ever going to win, so I didn't really have to accept the fact he wasn't. I kind of just was never kind of on board with thinking he was going to win, but I wanted it to be on the table for as long as it could. And like for me, coming out of this season, it's mainly about reputation for me. It's mainly about we got to look good for the people outside. We got to hang up the nice curtains. We got to go out and we got to show our face. It's got to look good, right? And I'm still like, okay, that's 2 races left. Still close the gap. I want the gap at the end of the season. I already know he can't win, but I want it to be as small as possible just so it looks better in the history books. Just so he's got a bit more credit in the bank. Just so I've got a bit more credit in the bank when it comes to arguing. You know what I mean? In a perfect world, he wins the final 2 races. That's an extra 2 wins, and then he has 5. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, when you're arguing back and forth with someone, at the moment it's like, you had the fastest car all year round, and you only won 3 races, and Russell won 2 in a Mercedes, and Leclerc won 3. Leclerc won the same amount of races as Lando, and Lando had the quickest car all season, which I don't even necessarily believe. We'll get to that later. And it's like, that's why. So I still got stuff to hope for, basically, for the final 2 races this year, which is, I do have it up here. I will get it up. I guess not. Let me go back. Here it is. Qatar and Abu Dhabi. Qatar's this week, end on Sunday, the 1st of December. Oh, and they're straight away as well. We're wrapping this shit up quickly. We're not wasting time. We're like, Verstappen's one. I mean, I'm acting like they choose like the dates by race result. But Verstappen's one. We're just going to wrap it up quick. It's 1st and then 8th, so we're going to get through this quick. And I'm hoping for high points, outscoring Verstappen in all of them because we got to save face. Is that a phrase? That's what we got to do. But yeah, let me get back to my notes now. Real quick. Yeah, a lot of overtakes. Everyone on social media over the moon. Max has won. All of it is like, I'm so happy Max has won, but it's with an undertone of because the competitors Lando and we hate Lando. And what happened to like Ding Dong the Witch is Dead? What happened to A Common Enemy? What happened to We Want Change? What happened to We Want to Start a Revolution? And this has not been the status quo, by the way. When Lando won his first race in Miami, it was like, that was like at the time the feel-good win of the season. Hamilton winning out at Silverstone probably immediately overtook that, but that was the feel-good win of the season. All the drivers were happy with him. Everyone on social media was happy for him. It was like, oh, go on, son. And like most times you hate a driver, it's because there's been a rivalry on track between that driver and a driver you like. So Hamilton, Verstappen, those fans probably hate each other still, right? Because you just get into it. Whereas Lando, it kind of has came from like the conversation around him more than anything he's done on track, aka either being overrated by British media, whatever it is, like big conversations about what team he should go to, like stuff like that. But I think mainly he's got always haters and always ops, basically, from like interviews and cool down rooms and just having a punchable face. You know what I mean? Like, I can't, like, this is the power of Lewis Hamilton, right? So much of this hate, which honestly, like, he'll probably deny it, but a lot of, like, his bad race starts and maybe some of his bad decisions has probably came from like some social media things. And like, I know that's a thing athletes will deny. We don't even read it. Don't even look at it. Honestly, you just zone it out. I said, I've got good people around me and all this and that, right? But like, a lot of maybe his bad race starts and being in his own head too much and maybe sometimes overtraining for things or whatever, right? That's probably came from a lot of that sort of online, I'm not going to call it necessarily hate, but just negative conversation about you all the time and calling you shit, basically. And like, it's crazy because I think most of that you could maybe track back to, and people were already starting to turn on him. Things like, I think last season, or was that this season, where he breaks the trophy, celebrating and stuff. So there was like little things, but I think you could honestly, the real like Oppenheimer moment, the cool down room, Lewis Hamilton, where he basically is like, well, you've had the quickest car for how many years and you won so much. That was a no-go. Like, that is the power of Lewis Hamilton. Like, whether he meant it as a joke, whether he was just saying tongue-in-cheek, whether it was making a real point, whatever it was, you was in the cool-down room, cameras are on you, and you said to Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time, 8-time world champion, if you're feeling nasty, right, you said to him, yeah, well, you know what it's like. You win all the time because you had the quickest car out. Kind of being like, you only win because you had the quickest car. Now I got the quickest car in my time. Get out of the way. My room. I'm going to start winning all the time now, type thing. And like, people didn't like that. People got an idea about you from that. And then when you went on to not win all the time with what was the quickest car, right? And you started to bottle things from the front, and it's not so easy. Hamilton says a little couple things in interviews like, I guess it's not just the quickest car, eh? Yeah. Guess so. When he starts saying stuff like that, oh no, it all starts to build up. You don't want Hamilton fans against you online. That's what you don't want. You're battling Max, and now you got Max fans against you online. And then Leclerc, I guess everyone else just jumps on Leclerc fans like, yeah, fuck it, let's get involved. So that wasn't ideal, and I think you can trace a little bit back to that. So like, he shouldn't have made those comments and things like that. I don't think it's helped him at all. But it is what it is. I think that, yeah. But here's the thing. It looks worse than it is. Like, large parts of why he lost most of this season isn't necessarily through bad drive or anything. It's just through bad starts. That's an easy thing to iron out. You get your starts right. That's like a confidence thing. That's like a mentality thing. You get that ironed out. You get that fixed. That's so much of your race done. How many races you get a good start and you just lead it? Your car doesn't foul on you, all the pit stops are good, and therefore you've got no issues, there's no red flags, and you just drive it to the line. So much of it can be in the start. You improve the start, all of a sudden everyone's like, whoa, how has Lando improved his form so much? Whoa, how has Lando got so much quicker? He hasn't really got quicker. He's just improved his starts. I mean, the reason everyone's saying that car is so quick is because he would put it on, he'd put it on pole and stuff, and he'd be at the front a fair few amount of times in a row. But then, like, you get in a little battle with Russell, you get in a little battle with Verstappen, and all of a sudden you've got so much extra work to do. And you put yourself at that disadvantage where it's like, oh, we're going to offset the strategy. The amount of times I had to hear McLaren, mechanics talking about offsetting the strategy because of, Lando had fucked it up. But like, when they sit there and Verstappen makes his comment to Zach Brown, which I like, to be fair, when an athlete will do that and be like, I didn't fucking forget, fuck you, I'm an animal. And I remember shit, and that shit kind of drove me a lot of the time. When he's with Zach Brown, and Zach's like, hey, well done, yay! And he's like, yeah, I guess I can win, not in the quickest car, innit? And like, that's a true statement. He didn't have the outright quickest car all season. But the narrative that McLaren just had this like Mercedes level quickest car all season, and then they did that with it, is kind of bullshit. They had a very long stretch where their car was the quickest in the middle of the season. And, you know, but like a lot of times I think the Red Bull was quicker. A lot of times I think the Ferrari was quickest, and a lot of times I think the Mercedes was quickest. The issue is that when Mercedes had the quickest car, when Ferrari had the quickest car, when it rarely did happen, they made the most of it. McLaren didn't. Now, I think there was sometimes when McLaren didn't have the quickest car, but they was labelled as the quickest car simply just because, I don't know. Honestly, because Sergio fucking Perez. Here's the fucking stats, by the way. Lando Norris got 3 wins this season, and Piastri got 2 wins, 5 in total. Hamilton got 2 wins this season, Russell got 2 wins, 4 in total. Leclerc got 3 wins, Sainz got 1 win, 4 in total. Max got 8 wins, Perez got 0 points. And so many of the times when you're talking about who has the quickest car, it's so easy to be like, oh, McLaren does, and Max is dragging a shitbox. Because there's such a big gap. If we just had a different driver, it'd be interesting to see, would Max still have 8 wins? Would Max have 6 wins? Because he lost 2 to his teammate, so it was 6 and 2. Would Max still have 8, but his teammate would have got a couple as well, and be like 8 and 4? Because if like Max has a competent teammate who picks up a couple wins himself, are we going to be sitting here now at the end of the season still going on about how dominant McLaren was as if it was for the whole season? Because if we were sitting here at the end of the season and Max had 8 wins and he had a teammate who had 4 wins even, then that is one team with 2 different drivers picking up 12 wins. You know, but because Max is just doing it on his own and Perez is giving us nothing to go off, it's just like, oh, Max is like a god who's doing amazing things with like a second, third best car. And multiple weekends he did have that. But like the first 6-7 races of this season, I mean, Max won 4 of the 5 starting races when the car was clearly the best. And the only reason he didn't win 5 is because he DNF'd because his car blew up, right? And yes, the middle of the season, it was up and down. And a lot of times, but like when they didn't have the quickest car, they didn't have the 5th quickest car. For like 1 or 2 weekends, they had like just off Lando, a couple turns behind Lando. Some weekends, sure, big gap, just behind type thing. And it's not like that Hamilton, this is my strop by the way, I said I was going to throw this strop later. It's not like Hamilton, Verstappen, when they was kind of just doing this throughout the whole season, who was the quickest, it was kind of undulating. It's like, it wasn't like Red Bull and McLaren. Like McLaren also sometimes you had Ferrari being the best, or you had Mercedes being the best. It's not, this isn't a matter of as simple as, it was between the McLarens and the Red Bulls, and the McLarens, and Lando was shit. Because also, there's another guy in the McLaren, by the way, who everyone loves, Oscar Piastri. So what's that all about? Lando actually has a good teammate that you can set him by, and, yeah, you know, there's all this bullshit around it. But like, I don't know, I just think it's like, the reality of the situation is Lando couldn't capitalize in that big window, middle of the season, when they were the quickest, to at least make this competitive. And if he had won some of those races when he was from the front, you know, if he had, you know, sometimes had luck, sure, but most of the time just got the start right, he would still at least be in it right now. I don't, you know, and if, you know, Hamilton was in that car, yeah, things would be different. Because guess what? No shit. Lando Norris isn't Lewis Hamilton. Whoa. And yeah, if Leclerc was in that car, if, you know, a couple other drivers. But like, I don't know. I think we give it till next season. Okay? Before we start making our mind up on people, and how they are, and see what the cars are like next season. And even these final 2 races. Because again, it changed the narrative so much. If he has a good final 2 races, he gets another win, and then, you know, I just feel like that really flips things again. Let's just get into the soft, medium, hard rules. I'm running around in circles as I'm trying to convince people that to not hate Lando, which is never going to happen. Max was good. He deserved to win. He's a worthy winner. He's obviously the best driver in the grid right now. Just going to get that out there real quick in case people thought otherwise. Soft, medium, hard award. Soft. I haven't got a soft award yet. No one was really that shit, to be honest. I don't really want to give one out unless I really feel it. Perez, yeah, sure, he only got 1 point, got himself back up to 10th, but at least he moved. It's not soft-worthy. Like, Lando and Piastri had mid-weekends, but the car wasn't great. I kind of wanted to give it to Leclerc just for not taking Russell out. I didn't want Russell to win. Hamilton did a charge. Yeah, the Astons weren't great, but it's just like, it's like giving it to like the Astons, or giving it to like the kick team, whatever they're called. Like, sometimes just like, I mean, I could give it to Lawson, but no one really was egregious enough, so I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to give the mid award to Verstappen, because obviously he won it. He did the thing he had to do, as he always does. Done the thing. But I wasn't excited by it. I thought he could have at least had a Billy Big Bollocks moment, because he likes to do that sometimes. Yeah, I'm ahead by 30 seconds, but I want the fastest lap, so I'll pit anyway. Not that he needed the fastest lap here, but just like to just do like a I'm him type thing, or just like, even though I don't need to fight you right now, I don't know, I just wanted him to do some shit that didn't even make sense just for my entertainment, basically, so I put him in the mid category. And obviously hard, Hamilton, that doesn't really work. Hamilton. Oh my god, what I would have gave right in that moment. Oh, what I would have done for Hamilton to have been able to catch Russell as well. God, that would have been amazing. Didn't quite have enough, but he was catching him on he was really pushing and catching him on the older tyres. But then, just went away from him, didn't have it, went off a little. But man, I mean, people are still giving him a lot of credit for going P10 to P2. But yeah, I don't know. It was a nice moment. I still think going to Ferrari is the right move. Technically, I mean, they both got the same amount of wins this season. Leclerc 3, Sainz 1, him 2, Russell 2. So they both got 4. But I think going in red, even though Ferrari was fucking up this week, just clownish behaviour again, turning into the sort of circus act they used to be. Just Sainz coming in. We're not ready. Sorry. And, wake up. Sainz is actually... that's the thing. If you go to Ferrari, you kind of, Also, why did Sainz not get a penalty? I remember Hamilton getting a penalty for that same thing in Austria. Anyway, you kind of got to, boss the team around a little bit more. I feel like sometimes Hamilton sits back, lets the team do what they say, so they can blame him later. But I feel like Carlos gets a lot of decent results because he is, basically runs the team himself and, makes the calls. But I think overall it's the right decision. Overstay your welcome a little too long at a team. Go to Ferrari. I think overall they've looked pretty decent. They might win the Constructors still, that's looking on. And I think red is his colour. Forza Ferrari. That's right, I'm Italian now. Where Hamilton goes, we go. This is Formula 1 Hards On Podcast. We got Hards On going to the end. This was the Vegas Grand Prix. The next one is the Qatar Grand Prix this coming weekend. Thank you very much. This was my salty tears. I was crying about it. But yeah, like I said, congratulations to Max Verstappen. Not that he needs my congratulations to him winning a 4th title. It's not exactly it's not exactly what we didn't expect at the start of the season. So I guess you can only be happy that if it was always going to get this outcome, at least we got this outcome with an exciting season to go along with it. Multiple races. Let's just hold space for this season real quick. Okay? Multiple race winners. Multiple people winning races more than once. They weren't just one-offs. It was exciting. There was this idea that there was a fight going on. There was fights happening on track, off track, and interviews, crashes through front of the pack, driving. It was exciting. It was fun. We're not done yet. We've got 2 races left, guys. Come on now. Let's keep going. Thank you very much. And